DeAndre Hopkins chatter getting crazy, or is it? CJ Stroud, speaking of crazy, he addresses the wide receiver wish of the past, the notion that he demanded that the Texans take Tank Dell. A lot to get into, such little time. Let's go inside the locker room. Let's eat.
Yeah. It's the locker room on YouTube. You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game.
Welcome to the locker room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker. You can hear me Monday through Friday, 10 to 2 on Sports Radio 610 and the Odyssey app. Big news from the Texans at 11 o'clock just dropped. They are going to have a fan council. We'll get into the CJ Stroud talk about the past, some rumors, some wishes. We'll get into the DeAndre Hopkins chaos as well. But the Texans dropped news. They're going to have a fan council. They're listening to the people. They're going to bring in a lot of fans, a lot of super fans, a lot of fans from all over the place, from all over the state. And they're going to be transparent about what their plans are. They're going to listen. They're going to try to increase, improve, evolve the stadium experience, and try to make the best version of the NRG game day experience in the future. I'm out there 3 hours before the games. We judge the tailgates for HEB. After the game, I'm in the locker room, not this locker room, that locker room, interviewing players. And then I'm in this locker room for the post-game show. But the fan council is going to be a good thing. And what better person to be a part of it than myself? So I will be in the fan council as well. It's going to be fun. I'll keep you guys updated on what's going on. Really cool meeting. We've already had one. And I'll keep you updated on that. But the news dropped that the Texans have a fan council, and your boy's going to be a part of it. Let's hear from CJ Stroud. He was with the GOAT, not Tom Brady, not that, but Matthew Berry, arguably the GOAT of fantasy football, now of NBC Sports and Peacock. He caught up with the quarterback of your Houston Texans, and he asked him about something that was a large part of dialogue heading into the NFL draft. The S2 cognition test, all of the noise. We remember it. We had discussions. There were Bryce Young guys, me. There were CJ Stroud people, others. There were just drafted quarterback people. There were guys who wanted to roll with Davis Mills. But there was a lot of chatter around CJ Stroud. He ended up going number 2 overall. And here was Matthew Berry asking him about all of the questions, all of the chatter, all of the dialogue, including the S2 cognition test leading up to the draft. Here's what CJ had to say about that. And we'll get into Matthew Berry's top 5 destinations for DeAndre Hopkins. You might be surprised and or pleased by his list, depending on where you stand. We're also going to get into all this Texans news. Subscribe, like. Here's CJ Stroud.
For me, it was a blessing just to be able to have opportunity to get drafted and go through the whole combine process and the pro day, even though it's very long-winded and stressful. But at the same time, I think I have good people problems. Like the things that were coming out, for me, is like at the end of the day, it would be a bad thing if things weren't being said, good or bad, because shoot, I'm a topic, I guess. So I try to look at it as a different as a way just to learn from it. It's not the first time things have came out about me, so I'm not saying I'm used to it in a sense, but I kind of am. It's just it is what it is, and I'm not gonna try to control the narrative. And I know it was from an inside source somewhere where they were hating on me or whatever. But at the end of the day, man, I'm powered through God, and at the end of the day, it is what it is. Everything happens for a reason, and I'm a Texan, so it really didn't matter anyway.
No, it didn't at all. And smart guy once told me pressure's a privilege. Right?
For sure.
Pressure's a
guys
privilege.
like us in our position, we want pressure.
Exactly.
Yeah, my team, we weren't worried at all. We were actually kind of relaxed the whole time. At least I was.
Yeah, you were.
And I heard nothing but great things from teams. I didn't hear anything negative, really. So
it was.
So there you go. CJ Stroud on that. Now, he kind of caught himself. The team seemed to be a little bit of panic. We saw the athletes first rally against Brady Quinn and all that type of stuff. I believe CJ, though, when he says that he wasn't in a panic. And look, there's a couple of things that he said there that I think are interesting. And look, most of these guys have pressure of some at some level when they come into the NFL. Obviously, there's different levels, but I don't think there's higher level pressure than Ohio State quarterback. And I'm including Alabama quarterback. I'm including Texas quarterback. Ohio State fans are nuts. It is the number one squad in that state. I know the Browns are huge too, but Ohio State fans are nuts, man. You lose one game, you're the worst thing in the world. They brought in Quinn Ewers before CJ took a snap. He was already a millionaire. He is skipping his senior year of high school. So noise is not really going to bother CJ Stroud. And unlike a lot of athletes, and I think we can kind of relate to this, he does not live on social media. He really doesn't, which is kind of wild. Him and Bryce Young, they just don't seem to live on social media. He's just kind of doing his own thing. I don't know if it's just out of, self-interest. I don't know if like one of his OGs told him, but you don't see CJ Stroud on Instagram. You don't see him on Twitter. Maybe playing at Ohio State kind of teaches you at an early time to avoid it. Although there's a lot of Ohio State guys who are on there a lot. For whatever reason, he's not on social media. So it really doesn't faze him. He's also very faithful. It always goes back to God, whether it's an OTA press conference or whatever it is. So he seems very content with himself. What kind of quarterback is he going to be? I don't know. I mean, there could be some struggles. Maybe some of that chatter, does lead to struggles. Who knows? But the reality is he was a number 2 pick in the draft. So the Texans didn't let the noise get to them. And it doesn't seem like that noise is going to get to him. So if he does have struggles, if he does have rookie struggles, I don't think it's going to be because of outside noise. I don't think that's going to get to him. Again, the DeAndre Hopkins noise, there's a lot of it. We'll get to that in a sec. We'll also get to Matthew Berry's most intriguing nuke destinations, as well as where DeAndre Hopkins would rank in production at those. So you don't want to miss that. It is the Locker Room, number one source for Texans daily digital content. I'm Landry Locker, Monday through Friday, 10 to 2, Sports Radio 610, and the Odyssey app. Here's more from CJ Stroud, and this is him talking about my guy by way of Rockwall, Texas. Shout out to the Yellow Jackets, who actually wear orange uniforms. Jackson Smith and Jigba, big fan of his. CJ Stroud's a big fan too. And maybe he had a vision, like many did, of JSN being a Houston Texan. We'll get to that in a second when we get to the Dell stuff. But here is CJ Stroud talking about Jackson Smith and Jigba.
Receiver, somebody who they're going to love to have, not only on the field, but off the field. I definitely think that he's just a great human being, but he's a dog. Like, it's somebody that I'm going to miss playing with, lining up with, because one thing, he's going to have his quarterback's back no matter what, and he's going to make plays for him. So just excited to see that trio over there play with Geno. I think Geno's a great quarterback. DK, Tyler, I definitely think that they're going to be a great trio. And I think not too long, Jackson to be, if not the best receiver in the league, one of them. So
yeah, no doubt.
He'll be one of the best receivers in the league. That's what he said. Man, that would be interesting. I do think he's going to be a baller. You guys know, if you follow this channel and you rode along with me to the draft, I was a big JSN fan, and CJ was as well. We'll hear him in a second talking about what he originally thought was going to happen with the Texans. And this is kind of the second time that he's talked about the possibility. And I think he was kind of saying it tongue in cheek on draft day, where, man, I was hoping we could go up and get JSN. That would have, you wouldn't have had a first round pick next year. And that would have been a hell of a price. But he was asked about the Tank Dell thing. And I thought the Tank Dell rumors were hilarious. Like, the word demand was thrown out there, and the great Chancellor Johnson, KPRC2, did one of his usual great features with Tank Dell. And Tank Dell just said in passing that him and CJ talked, and then they texted. And national folks ran with it and acted as if Tank Dell said that CJ Stroud demanded that the Texans draft him. CJ Stroud will add some clarity to that. And he's also going to bring up something interesting about what he originally thought was going to happen with the Houston Texans at 2-12 before they made the trade to get up to 3 and get both him and Will Anderson and basically break the internet on draft day. Here's CJ Stroud talking about the notion And Matthew Berry will ask the question. You'll hear his voice here on NBC Sports and Peacock about the notion that he told the Texans to go draft Tank Dell out of U of H.
You went to the Texans brass and said, hey, go get me Tank Dell.
Mm-hmm.
Go draft Tank Dell. So is that true? And why Tank Dell? What did you see in Tank that you wanted to make sure he was your teammate?
Yeah, Tank is not only an amazing player, amazing person as well. And I know that we had moved up to get Will. And of course, Jackson, I thought me and him would go 2-12. But when they moved up, I was super happy.
Thought they were going to go 2-12. I love Will Anderson. That would have been interesting, though.
Because I wanted Will too. Will was amazing in the process. I got to meet him a couple times, and it was just really helpful for me to have somebody like Will around. And I got to talk to Nick, our GM, and he was asking me some questions about Tank. He was like, "Do you like him?" I was like, "Yeah, I love him. Like, he's a great route runner, good dude, can catch really well. He's a big radius, fast guy, can take the top off." And I was like, "Yeah, I'll be happy with that." So he was like, "Call him." So I called Tank and chopped it up, and he was hoping that to go to the Texans, and then Nick gave him the call probably like a couple hours later, and then he ended up becoming the Texan. So it's kind of cool.
All right, so that's a lot different than he said, hey, go get this guy. They're on the board, or they're on the clock, or they're about to make a move. Tank Dell's there. Hey, CJ, what do you think of Tank Dell? Not, hey, Nick, you got to get Tank Dell. That's a little bit different. And I thought that was how it read. Hell of a piece by Chancellor. Got a lot of traffic there, but that notion is crazy. But the JSN thing is interesting. He thought JSN would have been the pick at 12. So you get him and JSN. That would have been something interesting. But I don't think we can complain about getting one of the best players in the draft with Will Anderson and the move that was made. Only time will tell, though. But that was CJ Stroud with Matthew Berry, NBC Sports, and Peacock. Matthew Berry actually put out the most intriguing, and we'll get to this crazy ass noise, this DeAndre Hopkins noise. Good God, this is getting out of control. It really is on the internet. But Matthew Berry put out his most intriguing nuke destinations 1 to 5. And number 1, he has the Kansas City Chiefs. And with these rankings, he also put what DeAndre Hopkins would rank as top wide receiver in fantasy, like where his ranking would be. Matthew Berry said if he goes to Kansas City, he would be the 12th wide receiver, so WR12. He put Cleveland number 2. He said he'd be WR14. Buffalo 3. Has him at 16 in that case, the 16th best wide receiver. And then New England at 27, he would have him as the 27th. In Houston, he would be the 29th best receiver. So he doesn't see DeAndre Hopkins making like a huge fantasy impact here. Don't know how much that matters, but he has him at 12. But he has KC, Cleveland, Buffalo, New England, and Houston. Now, that's just Matthew Berry talking from a fantasy POV, which – hell, I think matters these days. I know back in the day, like when I first started media, there was like the old school Hardo journalists and the old school radio guys. I don't give a damn about fantasy football. These days, I mean, I would say 99.9% of my audience, my listeners, they play fantasy football in some way, shape, or form. And it helps you follow the league. And it is one measure of production. It's not the end all be all, but it is one measure of production. I think it's just a good thing to mention. It's a good resource for the people. So that's the fantasy impact that Matthew Berry thinks Nuke could have. And he has Houston as number 5. Let's get into, though, before we get out of here and enjoy our Fridays, the latest on Nuke Hopkins and the latest news. And this is becoming draft-like. You know, we just heard CJ Stroud talk about the draft noise. We talked about Jackson Smith and Jigba. We've talked about all these things. This is turning into that. And quite frankly, it feels like perhaps the league is kind of speaking to DeAndre Hopkins in for a number of reasons. First of all, he's 31 years old. He's had the 2 worst years of his career for multiple reasons the last 2 years. So sometimes the league speaks to you there. Also, the timing, like the timing of DeAndre Hopkins' release, not good, not favorable. He probably would have appreciated being, released before the start of the league year, especially if they were going to eat the salary anyways. So the timing probably hurts a little bit because teams have done, other things, and you combine those things. There's just a lot of chatter with DeAndre Hopkins, and a lot of it is locally. Let's try to go through this real quick. So Hopkins has told people say that DeAndre Hopkins is interested. Maybe he's told a couple of people he's interested. Couple things here. First of all, it's cool that he would publicly, allegedly, want people to know that he's interested in the Texans, because I think even like the last couple of years, and a lot of this has to do with money, I don't think anyone with the amount of football that DeAndre Hopkins has left would want to admit that they wanted to go to Houston. I don't think that would happen. So you've kind of come a long way there. Also, he might just be trying to, push the market and create some buzz. Nuke loves that love. He loves that attention. We know that. And he gets a lot of love in Houston. So maybe he's just trying to get in the news cycle. He's in it in Houston. He's in it in other spots as well. So we had Brooks Cabina said that there's interest from Nuke to play here. Jerome Solomon of the Houston Chronicle followed that up by saying a return is a real possibility. And then you had Aaron Wilson. So we got battles here. So Jerome Solomon said it's a real possibility. Aaron Wilson, former Chronicle writer, now KPRC 2. He said Cleveland is a real possibility and Houston is not likely. So we got a little battle. Again, fluid process, not saying who's right or wrong, but Jerome says real possibility. Aaron Wilson says not a possibility at the moment, and Cleveland's the possibility. So we got a little media wars. Diana Rossini says that Buffalo appears to be out. Cleveland doesn't seem to be in a hurry. The Jets are out. The Cowboys don't seem interested. Again, sports are fluid, especially when we're talking about all this drama. It only takes one team. I'm sure he wants the Odell Beckham Jr. Deal. Do the Texans want him? We've cussed and discussed this all over. Should they want him? Is he ideal? Is it ideal? At the age of 31, how much good football does he have ahead of him? Does it halt the progress of the Texans? Is he just using people and trying to get the word out there? Who knows? But I love a good media war. Interest, not interest. Boom, boom, boom. DeAndre Hopkins. Who knows what happens? Shout out to everyone for coming through. Subscribe, like, ride along. Appreciate everyone for coming through. Tomorrow, I'm going to be at an event at Boots for Troops. I'm actually going to be sitting at the same table as Dameon Pierce. So maybe I'll get some content from Dameon Pierce. I think he should be the finisher, whether he's the starter or not. So I'll talk to country-ass Dameon Pierce, one of your favorites, one of every Texans' favorites. Shout out to the new fan council. That should be fun, and we're going to keep it real in here and continue to have fun. No matter what happens, whether Nuke ends up here, whether CJ Stroud got his wish or not, no matter what, when it comes to this Texans game, we are all in this together. Appreciate everyone for coming through.
You know what it is. Let's get it. Hey, locker room. Yeah, we in the locker room. Texas talk. Yeah, you know what we about to do. Localize every angle's what we really do. We the source. We the pulse of the city too. Landlocked. Got the game in the headlock. Localize every time. Can't stop.